Good morning. It's good to see all of you here today. We're very excited to have Darryl Burton with us to speak today. The story of Darryl Burton, as you will learn, is just such an extraordinary one. But we, as you know, have been wanting to bring people to campus that can be examples of people that have made a difference in their community. So our overarching purpose in this is to help our students to think of themselves as engaged citizens, people that are engaged and involved in their community, and making community better for all of us, more inclusive and more just. And so we really want to bring people to campus that will be an example and a model. And boy, we scored with Darryl, because what an extraordinary story he has. I mean, imagine being arrested and being imprisoned for nearly 25 years and being completely exonerated and the arrest being proven to be completely false. And then turning that into something positive. I mean, he could have been bitter, he could have been vindictive, and yet God was able, by God's grace, to transform that into such a beautiful story. And so we brought Darryl here as an example, as a model to you all, as something that we can aspire towards, that we could take the very worst life throws at us and turn it into something, a blessing and something good for our community. So Darryl, thank you for the two quick messages you've already given, 15 minutes. Now he's going to give the full 50 minutes of message. So I'll tell you what, Darryl, I can take that and put it up. Yeah, I'll go put that up for you. But so yeah, come on and give us the Darryl Burton story. Thank you for being here, Darryl.
Thank you, and good morning, and good morning to everybody. Let me see if this thing works. I don't know. He gave me some technology. That's something that I don't really know how to use too much. Okay, yeah, there you go. Now we got it. Yes, I am Darryl Burton. I'm associate pastor at the United Methodist Church of the Resurrection. I am honored to be here. Thanks to Joel for having me here at what is this? This is Dakota, Wesleyan University. And every time I see the word Wesleyan, I think of, John Wesley. John Wesley, who was the founder of Methodism. And I was asking, is this a seminary? Is it a seminary? He said, no, it's not a seminary, it's a university. So you all are not in seminary. You're not, I guess, studying to become pastors, right? Is that right? He said, no, some of y'all probably don't even believe in God. I didn't believe in God. But at any rate, it is an honor to be here and to share with you my story, what has been a lifetime of hell and horror. And so I'm going to slow down. Earlier today, I spoke twice in two classes, and I had to kind of run through it. I had 15 minutes. And so I think I have at least 40 minutes, 40 minutes, Joel, something like that. Yeah, so, I don't have to kind of rush through it. And there's a whole lot more that I really want to share with you that I didn't get a chance to share earlier today. So thank you for having me. And I am a pastor, so I do thank God for allowing me to still be in the land of the living, because what I went through was, it was not only, threatening to my life, but in some ways, I'm a miracle just to be standing here. So as I begin to share this story, I tell folks that this is a three-part story. It has an opening, a middle, and an ending. That's the story. And that's what I share. I share just like if you read a book about a story or listen to music or watching on television or documentaries, all stories have those basic components, right? An opening, a middle, and an ending. But the message that I'd like to convey, and I didn't share it this morning, the message that I want to talk about is hope and forgiveness. That's my message, because I had neither one. I was in a hopeless situation, and I was not a forgiving person. And so as Joel was saying, that sometimes you can get thrown a very bad circumstance in your life, and you can turn it into something positive. Well, that's what, happened for me. But I was not always this positive individual. I was very bitter, very angry, a person who was filled with a lot of hate. I had a lot of hate in my heart for many, many years, and hate is a very powerful thing. And I'll share a little bit about that here in a minute. But let me just give you some backstory. I grew up in a large family. My grandmother had 9 children. She had 7 girls and 2 boys. And she was a very religious lady. So we went to church a lot. And she was Baptist in her faith tradition. We went to church like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There was a lot of church going, which as a kid, I didn't understand that. And I didn't like it because I didn't like church, didn't understand God, didn't understand this religion stuff, and I just wanted to be out playing on Sundays with my friends and some of the older kids who didn't have to go. But my mother, who was a copycat, she wanted to be like her mother, my grandmother, so she had 9 children, but she had it in reverse order. She had 7 boys and 2 girls, okay? And somebody said, Jesus Christ, all those boys. Yeah, a bunch of hard-headed boys. And I'm right in the middle, 4 older and 4 younger than me, and I'm the darkest of the family. Some would say the black sheep by birth. And so I got teased a lot growing up. You know, my brothers, when they piled on, they called me things like Oreo, chocolate chip, milk, the midnight lights, out shoe rubber, tar baby, jet black, blue black, black on black, triple black, you name it. Anything that has something to do with being dark. I got teased and I didn't like it. I didn't like my dark complexion. And I was self-conscious. I was ashamed. I was insecure about my skin tone. And as young people, or as people in general, there's something about your body you just don't like. And I didn't like my complexion. So I'd ask my mom, you know, Mom, what happened to me? Why am I darker than all of my brothers and sisters? Did you leave me in the oven too long? What happened to me? And she teased me too. Go on, baby, you just my little chocolate drop. See, that ain't funny, Mama. You teasing me too. So I was insecure about my complexion, not knowing that many years later, my complexion is one. That's what came to my rescue. And so as I share this story, this is kind of story that can evoke emotions, make you laugh, make you cry, make you angry, make you upset, because it's a true human story. In some places, I give a chance, I talk to a lot of lawyers' conferences, and I get a little passionate, you know, when I share some of the stories. There's certain parts when I do, I get not angry, but I just passionate, because this is close to my heart. It happened to me, and I know it's somewhere, it's happening to someone else. And I can say, everybody in this room, you are old enough that you've been accused of doing something that you didn't do. Every one of you. Is that right? That's safe to say? Yes, you all have, you know. But you can't imagine being, you know, taken out of society, being accused for something that's serious, something like murder, and then taken out of society and spend the rest of your life in a box, you know, no more than 6 by 6. And that's something that you shouldn't have to imagine. And I didn't imagine that. When it happened to me, I thought I was the only person that this has ever happened to. So here's where it begins. In the city of St. Louis, a guy was pumping gas into his automobile, and another man approached him and shot and killed him. And 3 or 4 people gave a description to the police the night the crime was committed. They said the man who committed the crime was about 5 feet 5, maybe even 5 feet 6 inches tall, medium to light skin. Now that excludes me. I'm not 7 feet, but me, light skin, look at me. If you turn the lights out, put me in a dark room, I'd disappear. I'd blend in with darkness. I'm a dark brother, right? You agree with me? I'm dark. So how do you confuse me with light skin? You mean, many of you in this room are light skin, you know, you're all lighter than me. So, I mean, no motive, no ballistics, no DNA, no confession, no weapon, no fingerprint, nothing connected me to the crime, with one exception. Witnesses, guys who came to court, raised their hand and gave an oath and said, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me. Can I get some participation? God. And lied before God and anything that has something to do with the way of religion. I didn't believe in God, never angry at God, never blamed my situation on God. God had nothing to do with this. In fact, keep God out of it. Human beings did this to me. And human beings, unfortunately, do other horrible, evil things to other human beings. That's unfortunate, but we have self-will, at least that's what we believe as Christians. We have self-will, and we do other horrible things to other people, unfortunately. Well, that's who did this to me. So I wanted to deal with human beings. And they brought me into this courtroom drama, as you see on the, you know, on the screens. They brought me inside of this courtroom drama, and I had this lawyer who I affectionately call a public pretender. They got another name they call themselves. But anyway, who I saw one time. I had a 3-day trial, and I was convicted of capital murder. Capital murder, espionage, and treason are the only 3 crimes in the United States. If you get convicted, you're going to be facing one of 2 sentences, life or death. That's correct. And maybe some of you read the material, but at any rate, you know, you agree. Life or death. And I'm an innocent man. And it's something that really upset me about this situation is that the lawyer who was supposed to represent me, the judge, and the prosecutor, they had a sidebar where they stepped away and they had a conversation and they talked about another suspect who not only fit the description, But this other suspect had shot the victim on 3 different occasions. The 4th time he shot and killed him because it was 2 drug gangs fighting over drug turf in the city of St. Louis. The judge, the prosecutor, and my lawyer agreed not to let the jury hear about that. Well, that's not justice. That's an injustice. How could you do that to me? How could you do that to anybody? You knew that this guy was fighting and feuding with somebody over drug turf, and this man shot him all these times, and you're not going to go and investigate this guy? You're not going to, exonerate me? You're not going to even tell it to the jury. They kept it from the jury. So I hated the entire criminal justice system. Anywhere in the world, if you work for the justice system, whether you're police, judge, prosecutor, lawyer, guard, I hated my heart towards you for what a handful of people did to me. Anywhere in the world, didn't make any difference to me, any nationality, I hated my heart for everybody connected to the justice system. And I was an equal opportunity hater. I hated them all equally. They were the same to me. It making a difference if they was a judge, if it was a prosecutor, the police, the defense attorney. I hated them. And I'm telling you, hate is a powerful, powerful thing. It can grip you and not let you go for many, many years, in my case. And many people, and I'm going to tell you about this prison that I'm going to talk about here in a minute, were filled with hate. And it was a lot of horrible things that happened in that prison that you all can't even imagine. And you shouldn't have to imagine, because it was a hate-filled place. Everybody was filled with hate. Didn't make any difference. So here it was that they brought me over for sentencing, and the judge asked the lawyer, "You have anything to say before we pronounce sentence and judgment against, your client?" She said, "No, Your Honor." I said, "Well, wait a minute. I want to say something. Let me speak." He said, "Well, go ahead." I said, "You, Your Honor, this courtroom, the prosecutor, the defense attorney, the witnesses, the police, all of you are the part of conspiracy. You confiscate my freedom. You framing me, and I'm an innocent man." He said, "Well, look, I didn't find you guilty. Your lawyer didn't find you guilty. If you're mad at anybody, be mad at the jurors. That's who found you guilty." I said, "But, Your Honor, you have the power to overturn this conviction. You saw those people coming here and allow me to submit perjured testimony against me, and you can do something about it." He said, "This court and no other court is going to overturn what 12 jurors of your peers have decided against you." And he was right, but I'm thinking 12 jurors of my peers? Them people didn't grow up with me. They didn't run in the same neighborhood I ran in, that I roam around in. I grew up in the hood. So 12 jurors of my peers would be people from where? From my hood. I didn't know half of those people were twice my age, maybe 3 times my age. So what do you mean 12 jurors of my peers? And I have to tell you, some of the guys that I grew up with, they were thugs, and so, really, these was my peers. But so you didn't, you're not letting people who represent me, who came from the same community with me. That's not so. So that's a misnomer. But I understood what he was trying to say. That, these going to be 12 people from the community, and they're going to pass judgment. That's who passed judgment against you. And they found me guilty in less than an hour for the crime of capital murder, and they waived the death penalty. So they didn't give me life, sentenced me to what's called life by lethal injection or death by lethal injection. They sentenced me to life without parole for 25 years plus 50 years plus 25 years meant I had to spend 75 years in prison before I would have been eligible for parole. So it was death by incarceration rather than death by lethal injection. So basically they're saying you're never getting out of prison. You're going to die in prison. You're going to die. I was 22 years old, it was 1984, and I was a new father. So what they were saying is that not only are we going to sentence you to, life in prison, but we're going to sentence your child to life in prison. So one sentence created 2 prisons. And this young lady here is, that's my little girl. She's a young woman now. She was 7 months. 7 months. I saw her 3 times. The next time I saw my little girl, she was 25 years old. So that's the part that I regret and that hurts me the most. I didn't get a chance to watch her grow up. I didn't get a chance to be a father to her. I didn't get a chance to do anything with her. Nothing whatsoever. And she was angry and upset with me when I come home some years ago. She was bitter because I abandoned her. When I abandoned her, whether by force or by choice, it didn't make any difference. To her, her dad wasn't in her life. And so they took me to this place. They put me in what's called 5-point shackles. 2 shackles on my wrists, handcuffs with black boxes, 1 on my waist and 2 on my ankles. That's why they call them 5-point shackles. And they took me to this place called MSP, Missouri State Penitentiary. Many of you never heard of this place. Maybe some of you have, in Jefferson City, Missouri. Well, Time magazine wrote an article about this prison, and they described this prison as the bloodiest 47 acres in America. None of you ever heard that, have you? Well, I can tell you right now, if you Google that, or if you say to your phone, locate the bloodiest 47 acres in America, an image of that prison or a link to that prison is going to pop up. Well, that's where I spent, 18 or 19 years of my life in that place. Every day 3 men got stabbed or got assaulted, or even got killed, like what you saw with George Floyd. Well, that's what was happening in that prison just daily or on a regular basis. No one cared, because when we came to that prison and they drove us down inside this prison on what they call this gray goose, this school bus painted over gray, they opened these huge black doors and these bars and gates, and they would open them in slow motion. As they drove us down inside this prison, it's like you're being transported from one dimension to another. It was a huge banner, probably as big as this here. And it said, "Welcome to the Missouri State Penitentiary. Leave all your hope, family, and dreams behind." And that's what they meant. No hope for you. Family can't help you. Dreams are like nightmares. And what I learned about that word hope, is when I talk about hope and forgiveness, is that an acronym for the word hope is hold on, pain ends. At some point, pain will end. But man, I would, believe me, to be 25 years or 24 years plus dealing with that pain, that's a long time. None of you would have to deal with anything like I had to deal with for that length of time. I hope that you don't. And so when they got us inside this prison, I beg your pardon, ladies, they told us to strip down to our birthday suits, get naked, and stand spread eagle. And they sprayed us under our arms in our genital areas. They said, turn around, bend over, squat. And they sprayed us in our buttocks area with some kind of bug repellent for lice. Then they told us to shower off and sprinkle off. It was a huge room, probably twice this size, 30, 40 naked men waiting to be assigned a prison identification number. The number that they assigned me was 153063, and I hated it. And they stamped that number on everything that was connected to me. Pants, coats, socks, caps, shirts, underclothes. And when they would call over the intercom system, Burton 153063, report to your housing unit, report to the captain's office, I refused to go. I said, you degrading me, you dehumanizing me, and you talking to me like I'm a number and an animal. And I wouldn't go. And then the guards would come and they would be upset. Said, Burton, didn't you hear your number being paged? I said, no, I heard your number being paged. It's not my number. My mother named me Darryl Burton. They said, well, if you don't obey that order, we're going to put you in the hole. I said, put me in the hole? We're already there. This whole prison is a hole. Well, they was talking about ADSEC, solitary confinement. Put you in a cage where you have no contact with human beings, except for 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They have a little chuck hole, what they call it, in the middle of the door, and that's where they feed you your breakfast, lunch, or your dinner. That's the only contact you have with a human being. No other contact at all. And I knew that's what they was talking about, and the hole could make you lose, your mind. You could go crazy when you're separated from human beings. We're built to have contact and communication and relations with one another. And so they put me in the hole. A few days later, I'm thinking, hey, let me out the hole. I obey that number. I'll come when you call, because I want to be around other inmates, under convicts, and I want to be able to get to the law library where I could work and fight my case. But I'll tell you just a couple quick stories about this horrible place. I remember me and another guy, the first day, they put us in a housing unit that looked something like this. See these huge housing units. You see how large that is? It's probably, can't do you justice from this image on the screen. But these huge housing units where they lock you behind this, what's called these JC gates. These tall gates, they lock them with these 6-inch skeletal keys. That's the only way in that housing unit. That's the only way out. And you see these tiers that goes up several stories with rows of inmates, about 300 inmates in one of these housing units. 2 guards, only 2 guards. And then when a guard leave and go and have his lunch, you got 1 guard. So you think out of 300 inmates, he can't watch all those inmates. He cannot, he can't protect anybody. He's doing good to protect himself. So that's why you hear in these prisons, you hear a lot of screams, unbelievable screams, like it's coming from deep within inside of a man's soul. You ask, why was that guy screaming like that? Only to discover that 2 or 3 men, they was in his cell and they was assaulting that guy, and sometimes in a sexual way. And you probably have heard that men who go to prison for harming women and children in a sexual way or in a physical way, they are most hated in prison. Have you heard that by show of hands? Well, that's true. And some of those guys were innocent. It's like one guy, he and I both were innocent. We was released 6 months apart. He had been charged with killing a woman that he had never seen in his life. Never met her. He lived in Illinois. He was down visiting his family in Missouri, and he left going home and got pulled over, the 18-year-old white kid. And they charged him for killing this woman that he had never seen, had never had no contact with her. When he got to that prison, he got brutalized. I didn't know he was innocent. He didn't know I was innocent. I mean, we out today, we friends, but this guy got attacked over and over, all because he was charged with killing someone that he had never seen a day in his life on this earth. But that's what happened, in prison. Doesn't matter, whether you commit the crime or not. And so I remember me and another guy, we had our bed linen and clothes in our arms. He was going to one assigned cell, and I was going to a different cell. The first day number 1, inside of a housing unit that looked like that. He locked that gate, boom! And we got no more than a few feet, and we heard some rumbling, boom, 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 and turned and looked around. The first day, we saw 2 guys chasing 2 other guys, and they were stabbing them. They were stabbing these guys the first day. The day that I was released, August the 29th, 2008, they was rushing this man to the hospital on this gurney. Blood was just dripping off this, this rolling bed, and they was taking him to the prison hospital. A guy had cut his throat from ear to ear to try to decapitate him. And so much more in between. I could stand here for just hours and talk about all the violence that I saw in that place. Nothing like, you would see, in your lifetime, God forbid, especially up close and personal, in the dining room, in what's called the mess hall. At breakfast, lunch, or dinner, we knew that somebody was going to get stabbed or somebody was going to get hurt, at one of those meals. It's just a given. That's what happened in that prison. There are what you call no so-called nice guys in that place, or people who obey the rules, or obey laws, and people who are just angry and filled with hate, sometimes for no reason at all, just because they're there. And the evil that I saw, it didn't just come from the inmates. It was top down. That was administrators, guards, people who worked there. That was an evil place. Now here it was. I don't believe in God. I'm not a God-fearing guy, but I know evil when I saw it. And I also would like to say that there was a time when a gentleman came to prison. He was a new guy. He came to prison. He was by himself, sat down in the bleachers to watch teams play softball. Didn't know anything about this prison. But he knew, everybody knew he was a new guy because he had on what's called these brand new pressed grades. Everybody else stuff is worn, torn, ragged, your name tag fall off of it. But this new guy, everybody looking at him, this is a new guy. And he sit down and watch a game of softball. Nobody watching his back. And we looked at him. We were some of us standing and sitting in the bleachers watching the team. And we looked at this guy, he a few feet from us, and we said, that guy don't have a clue, do we? We knew that something was not nice going to happen to this guy because he's by himself and he's new. Well, sure enough, a guy walked past this guy, hundreds of men out on this, what's called lower yard, playing handball, softball, running track, lifting weights. And the guy went to the weight pile and he picked up a curl bar. And he came up behind that new guy, and he hit him in his head so hard, it split his head from the front all the way to the back. He knocked this man almost unconscious. The guy got to his feet and said, man, I don't even know you. What did you hit me for? He dropped the curl ball and said, welcome to prison, punk. That was it. That's what he did to that guy. You think we said, hey, look out, or don't do that? You don't get involved in prison. You know what we did? We got up, and we just walked to another part of the prison. We got away from it. As a guy, you see white flesh in his skull and blood just start gushing out. And, of course, the guards come down and run to the guy. That's whose job it is to try to help this man. But that's the prison culture. That's the prison environment. It's unfortunate, but it's a very brutal and evil place. Whether it's here in this state, South Dakota, if it's in Missouri, if it's in New York, wherever. Level 5 institutions, they're horrible places. You don't know this here. I didn't know it until I went to that place. I thought I was the only person in the world that was an innocent man. Well, that's not so. And they put us in cells like this here. This is, I don't know if you can see that good enough, but these little 6x6 cells, that's where I had to live. And you got 2 bunks. Those are metal bunks. They give you a mattress that's 4 inches thick. And you got to live with another human being, another man. You're forced to live with another man 24/7. You may not always get along. You may not even like each other. And so here's what I was able to do to try to get out of that place. I went and started working on my case and filing motions and pleadings with the courts, asking for a new trial. I filed a motion with the state courts, got denied. Federal courts got denied. All the way to the Supreme Court and got denied. It could have been my middle name, Darryl Denied Burton, because I got so many denials and that I was just so frustrated at the justice system. I said, nobody's going to, help me. This is a crazy system. Then I went on a letter writing campaign. I wrote hundreds and hundreds of letters, like 700 letters, from the United States to Canada, the U of heads of states, governors, senators, presidents of the United States. I wrote Republicans, Democrats, independents. I wrote the big O. I wrote Oprah Winfrey. Yes, I did. And they got in touch with me twice from her network, a couple of producers, I believe. And I'm like, man, why are you getting in touch with me now? You're a day late and $1 short. I'm out now. What do you want to talk about now? Talk to me when I'm in a place like that. And that's what I say about, people who, want to get involved in justice. Help some of those folks who are still in there trying to get out. And you know who else I wrote? I wrote the church. I heard that the church is supposed to help sinners. Well, I'm in that club. I'm in the sinners club, and the church wouldn't help me. Then in 1990, I saw a program on television, and I believe there's a slide right there, Centurion Ministries. This program, they was on television on 60 Minutes in 1990. They was helping a lady get out of a Texas prison. She had served 9 years for a murder she didn't commit. I said, well, if they helping innocent people get out of prison, they got to help me too. I'm innocent too. And I wrote them in 1990. They wrote me back. You know what they said? They said, yes, we help free innocent people who are in prison, but we're a small organization with limited resources, and we get 1,000 requests every year from inmates who claim to be innocent. Out of 1,000 requests, we take 2 cases, maybe 3 cases a year. If we take your case, it'll be 10 years before we get to it. This is in 1990. I said, well, good. I'm going to write you for 10 years. I got 75 years. I got time to write. And so I wrote them. I wrote them every year. I wrote them for 10 years, starting in 1990. They took my case 10 years later in 2000, and they got me out 8 years after that, 2008. So from 1990 to 2008, that's 18 years. And I think I asked earlier, there's somebody in the room that's about 18 years old, right? By show of hands, any 18-year-old? Yeah. Your whole life, everything from the time you was conceived, that's what I was trying to do with that organization. From 1990 to 2008, they was working to try to get me set free. But here's something else that I have to include this in this story because this is, important to me. Is that in 1998, the same year had I been executed, that's, when it would have happened because all my appeals had run its course by then. But I wrote this letter to Jesus Christ. I didn't know this guy's story. And maybe many of you don't know the story. Did you know that Jesus was an innocent man? By show of hands, anybody? Do you know the story? He was an innocent man. I didn't know that. I was not a Bible reader. I wasn't a Bible believer. But this guy was innocent. In fact, at least 5 times it was said he was innocent. The name Centurion, they got the name from the Bible when Jesus was crucified. A centurion said he was innocent. And then it's a bald head guy over there. I don't know if this thing will work, but if I can push it. Yeah, right there. See that bald head guy right there? I can say bald head. We got the same hairdo. Yeah. His name is James. One of Jesus' apostles' name is James. That's a couple of signs. The third sign is that the lead attorney who helped me get out of prison, and I think there's another slide to go there, right here, yeah, the lead attorney, this lady right here, yeah, her name is Cheryl Pilate, as in Pontius Pilate. That guy said 3 times that Jesus was innocent. The centurion said 1 time Jesus was innocent, and the guy being executed next to Jesus said he was innocent 5 times. You can do a case study. They said this guy Jesus was innocent. I'm like, man, this guy they went and killed this guy 2,000 years ago, and he was innocent. Who am I? Who am I? I didn't believe that anyone else had gone through something like what I was going through that was innocent. So here it was, 3 signs. I felt somebody was trying to get in touch with me, and then someone challenged me to read this book called the Bible with red letters, and I said, you know what? What does this guy Jesus say in these red letters? This is what I had to deal with. Remember, I'm a hate-filled guy with hate in my heart. And Jesus said, love your enemy. Can you love people you hate? Can anybody do that by a show of hands? It's hard to love somebody you hate. No hands went up that time. You can't love somebody you hate. He said, love your enemy. And I hate everybody that's something to do with the criminal justice system. Second thing he said was pray for him. Now, I wasn't a saved person. I said, yeah, I pray for him. I pray a building for one of them fools. That's what I'd pray. I was not saved. And the third thing he said was forgive them. Can you forgive somebody who do you harm? Can anybody forgive somebody? I see a few hands. You can forgive somebody who hurt you. Well, it took me a long time. It wasn't easy for me. And I kept reading where this guy Jesus was beat, spit on, whipped with a cat of nine tails, the crown of thorns, put on his head of blade. One verse in the Bible changed my life. One verse, Luke's Gospel 23, verse 34. When Jesus was being crucified, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That verse touched me. I said, that's divine. How could this guy forgive these people? And they killing them, and he's an innocent man. Didn't understand it. So I began to pray for those people just like this. I'm going to pray for them, Jesus, but you know what they did to me. Make them turn around. You know they lied on me. Make them do the right thing and let me out of this place. I was so angry, filled with rage, filled with hate in my heart. And I just said, I can't forgive. It's too hard for me. But it's like something whispered to me in my spirit and said, no, Darryl, you can't forgive them, but I can forgive them through you if only you would let me. And I look back at that verse closer. Jesus couldn't forgive them either. That's why he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And I understand today that forgiveness can only come from God through us if we let God use us to forgive those who hurt us. And it wasn't for them, it was for me. The forgiveness was for me. And it was a process, a long process, but I had to deal and do something about that hate that was in my heart, about that unforgiveness. And that's what helped me work through it. a lesson from 2,000 years ago from a guy who was killed, who was innocent, on a cross. That's why that's part of this story that I share with the world. And so here's what they were able to do to bring me home. The lawyers went back, and they found that there was a woman. She was the gas station attendant the night the crime was committed. She came to my trial back in 1985, and she told the police the day of the trial in 1985, she said, hey, wait a minute. You guys, you got the wrong man. That's not the man who committed the crime. That man is too dark. Remember my dark skin? What I used to be ashamed of? I can kiss myself today. Boy, black look good on me. I don't know about nobody else. Blacker the berry, sweeter the juice, darker the skin, deeper the roots. One of them rappers said that, Tupac, one of them. I don't know who said it, but I like it. But that's right. And this woman was not a young woman. They found she had moved away to Baltimore, Maryland. She came back to Missouri and said, there's an innocent man in prison, Darryl Burton. And that didn't come out to 2007. A miracle. A miracle. In 2007. And I didn't believe in miracles either. They also discovered that one of the key witnesses for the prosecution, they said this guy only had a couple of convictions. Well, he had 12 convictions. Many of them felony. They said this guy, the prosecution's witness, he was facing a couple of years in jail. He was facing 30 years in jail. That's what motivated him to come and lie against me. He was going to prison for the rest of his life, so he would lie on me or anybody just to keep him doing 30 years. Well, they hid that. That didn't come out to 2007. And also, 5 months after he testified against me, he signed a sworn affidavit saying he lied on me, saying he submitted personal testimony against me. And this here didn't come out again to 2007. And that's what was able to get me back in the court, and inspire, or at least, I guess, give the judge the courage to do the right thing, which was to set me free before 75 years. And if the judge hadn't granted me my freedom, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you today, to you all. So that's a miracle. And here's some of the folks I've met as I wrap this up, in the journey. Anybody recognize this guy? Huh? Yeah, you recognize him? Yeah, that's Danny Glover. He played in several different movies, and, he's a very popular guy, and he's passionate about social justice and an activist. But, I had just come home. He was giving a talk at for a death penalty, guy on death row or something like that. And they said, man, hey, Darryl Burton just got out, man. You need to, say something to him. He said, well, where is he at? And I was sitting in the audience just like you all, and they pointed me out. He said, come here, man, come here. Gave me a huge bear hug and said, if you ever need me for anything, you just, get in touch with me and let me know, and I'll come and I'll support and help you. And I don't know if he meant that, but I got a picture to show him. One of these days, I'm going to reach out to that guy and say, hey, you remember what you said? He probably won't, but I do. I'm going to tell him, that's what you said, man, so I need your help. Yes, to help some other innocent people get out. Here's a couple other guys. You recognize these guys? Brian Dennehy and John Grisham. Anybody recognize? I think Brian Dennehy has passed away. Actor Brian Dennehy. John Grisham's still alive. I met him several times. But they also, they advocates for justice. And I've spoken to groups I shared with other, groups who I get a chance to talk to, is that I've shared this message with atheist groups, with biker groups, with racist groups, with Jewish groups. I mean, these are just different groups, with Republican groups, with Democratic groups, independent groups, with non-believers, with Christians. Nobody like injustice is what I've learned. Nobody like injustice. Now, do we? You don't like people being treated unfairly. That's just who we are as human beings. We don't like to see people get treated wrongly or unfairly, and we shouldn't. But sometimes we have to stand up and say something, and this was what haunts me. The fact that I wasn't able to be there for my daughter and some of those guys who were screaming for help, I was too afraid to help them. A couple of times I tried to intervene and help them, and guys said, hey, Burton, you ain't got nothing to do with this, sir. That guy, excuse me for saying this, sir, he raped those women. He would never have peace in this prison. We're going to crush that guy for what he did to those women or those children. You better step back, else you're going to fall just like he will. I stepped back, but that haunts me. Because some of those guys were innocent. Even if they were not innocent, I just didn't like to see people being treated and brutalized, in that place. I'm like, these guys were sent to prison, for punishment, not to be punished. Who are you guys to punish these guys? You guys become the judge, the juror, and the executioner. And they would say, that's right. For what he did to those women, that's right. This is convict court now. There are no appeals. There are no rules. There are no procedures. We're going to hurt him. He shouldn't have hurt those women or those children. That's the way it is in Operation Prison. It's unfortunate, but that's what I had to do. So now I can be an advocate and can be a voice for those guys in those situations in those places. And so that's why we started this organization, Miracle of Innocence. You know, me and another gentleman, Lamont McIntyre, to help other innocent people get out of prison, and then help them once they come home. And the reason we started this organization was a couple of reasons. I got out and I was, homeless. I couldn't find a place, couldn't get a job. No one would, some people would help me, but not like the programs that they have in place to help people who commit the crimes. I don't know if you all knew this, but people who commit the crimes, when they come home, they got all kind of programs in place for them, and they should have. They help them with housing, with transportation, with jobs, and all kind of benefits. I went to ask for some help, and you know what they told me? You don't qualify for our benefits. I said, what do you mean? I was in prison almost 25 years. They said, yes, but you were innocent. These guys were guilty. We help the guilty. We can't help the innocent because we'll lose our benefits. I said, you got to be kidding me. They said, no, we're not. You need to start your own program to help innocent people because we can't help you. That's what they told me. And I couldn't believe it. That is crazy. Have you ever heard anything like that? No. And they got these, the federal government, the local government, state government, they have all kind of funds that they allocate to people who committed the crimes. They do nothing for innocent people like me. And that's what motivated us to start, Miracle of Innocence. And so today I just want to say, I don't know if there's any other, miracles, turning dreams to reality. That's what we do, turn dreams to reality, miracleofinnocence.org. So, I just want to say that today I am not bitter, but I am better because my God, I believe, is bigger than anything I ever had to face and anything any of you would ever face in life. No matter how hard life may seem for you, there is hope. Hold on, pain in. You will get through it. They arrested me. God rescued me. So out of that tragedy, I have to use this story to give God the glory. It's for his treasure. It's bigger than me. The story is, it's not even about me. I'm blessed that I can come out and share it with people, but it's not about me. It's about other innocent people who are in prison for crimes they didn't commit. And not only that, it's about each and every one of you, because I hope none of you ever go through anything as horrible as I went through. Whatever life journey is for you, whatever you're challenged with, I hope you remember at least a part of this story, that there is hope at the end of anything that you have to face, no matter how bad, or how tragic or how hard it is. Okay? God bless you. Thank you for letting me share this story with you.
Do any of you have questions today for Darryl?
No questions?
There's got to be some questions out there.
No questions, no answers.
Oh, okay. Actually, I see a
They want to get out of here. I mean, these students, they want to get out. They out of here. I've been a student, so I know what it's like. Out of here. It's so long.
Mentally, how did you make it through that almost 25 years?
How did I make it through it? Almost at 25 years, and I get that question a lot. And in fact, I'm writing a book. That's some image of the book that I'm writing. I get that question. That's a good question because, man, and I say this here, not trying to be cute or anything like that. I don't know. Sometimes I really don't know how I made it out of that place. I had a praying grandmother and a praying mother. I was not a praying guy. I was not a believer in God. And there was times, I think I shared this with the earlier group, but there was times when I saw inmates coming at me, and I knew they had prison knives. I knew they was going to kill me. Because you can feel it. You get chills. Man, these guys are coming to do me some harm. And I'm still here. There was times when, it was even be gauze. I felt these folks going to kill me today. So, ain't nothing, you can see I'm not a real big guy. I used to be bigger when I was in prison. I had to beef up. I was buff. I was a big dude in prison. At least 20 pounds of muscle mass, more than I am today. But, it don't make no difference. 2 or 3 guys come at you with knives. You can't fight them guys. So that's a great question, but I can't say I got a good answer for that one because I don't know. That's why I call it Miracle of Innocence. Thanks for asking.
Any other questions? Oh, yeah, Dave.
You described very well, the brutality of prison, and you also suggested that there is a problem with the brutality of the people that are there. Do you have any suggestions about how we can move as a society to deal with people who are filled with hate and people who have done bad things without compounding the problem by putting people in cages like that?
Right, or just in society in general. You know, it's you people, the young people. You know, I mean, of all stripes, all nationalities, all backgrounds. Listen, you know, we just got one time at life. This is it. This is all we're going to get. And like I've said before, no one like injustice, but no one like to see people treated, you know, unfairly or differently. You know, we are one race. We are one people, one race of people. And in prison, it was separated by race. When we went to the mess hall, it was what we called the mess hall, and the food was a mess. I mean, they shouldn't feed animals what they fed us. But the whites sat on one side, the blacks sat on one side, the Hispanics sat on one side, and that was, you know, the environment. You couldn't cross over. You know, you were separated because of the environment to where it was just so violent. Now, there was a few guys, white, black, you know, Hispanic, that would try to get together and bring harmony. But sometimes it seemed like the administration would aggravate things, and they would do things intentionally. You know, just like you see in the political climate, it's almost like, who got all the right answers? Nobody. You know, why can't people just sit down and say, you know, my views may be different than yours. You know, I got a beautiful wife. You think I always agree with her? No, I don't always agree with her, but she's always right, even when she's wrong. But, you know, but I'm just saying, but we have to get together and just start, if we want a better society, a better world, you know, for our children and children to be, you know, we got to work together. Because if a building falls on any one of us, we won't even be thinking about, you know, hey, you know, what color are you, or what, you know, your religious. Man, help me get out of here. Help me. You know, or if a hurricane or anything, natural disaster, we'll be trying to help each other. If you get hit by a flood, we try to help each other. Well, so why can't we do that when we're in peaceful times? We can. It's a choice if we choose to. You know, in the prisons, they can do better. But some of that, I have to tell you, some of that is by design. Some of that administrative. There was time when guys get into a knife fight, they would lock them up for a year. They would let those guys out of the hole, and they would put them in the same housing unit, on the same walk, you know, and they would make bets as to who was going to stab and kill the other one. Guards and inmates did that. They would make bets. So it was by design, some of that stuff.
We have room for at least one more. Let's hear it.
Unfortunately, it was by design. And we knew that. But, you know, in a world like that, what do? Self-preservation, you got to fight for your life, you know. I had to fight for my life.
So you mentioned that your daughter felt resentment towards you for being absent.
Yeah.
Did you feel upset with her for feeling resentment towards you because you were innocent and you couldn't help it?
Yes, no, I never felt upset with her. I mean, because she was a child when I left, you know, and even though I'm the adult and I was innocent, I try to put myself in her shoes, because what I didn't share about my little girl is that she ended up in an institution also. It's called foster care. Her mom had 2 other kids. She was raised thinking another guy was her dad, so she was given all these different mixed messages. And so when she was in foster care, she said before that they lived in basements, abandoned buildings, vacant homes, shelters. Her mother lost parental rights. So that's why I understood where the anger was coming from. Had she had a dad in her life, she wouldn't have went through a lot of that, you know. And so, no, I couldn't be angry with her. In fact, my heart breaks because I wanted to be in her life. You know, I come from a big family. We love our family. We love our children. But it wasn't my fault. It wasn't her fault. Intellectually, she got it, but her anger is justified. It's abandonment, no matter how you slice it.
Let's see what Keith, here we are.
So when did faith enter your story and change your heart?
So when did faith enter my story and change my heart? It started in 1998 when I wrote that letter literally to Jesus Christ. And this is what I said. Dear Jesus Christ, if you real, you and I know I'm innocent, if you help me get out of this place, not only would I serve you, I'll tell the world about you. Sincerely yours, Darryl Burton. Didn't believe in Jesus, didn't believe in God. I was challenging it. I'm from Missouri, show me state. You got to show me, right? And I'm thinking, hey, Jesus don't exist. He's not real. He's made up. God don't exist. And so it was a challenge for me. But also when someone spoke to me about the Bible and God and Jesus, I'm like, look, I've written him a letter. He's not answering my mail. So keep God out of this. I was resistant to this God thing till I learned that this guy was innocent. That's what began to change. He had the same experience I had, even worse. He got executed. So I said, man, if this guy, and he was forgiving people, even at the point of death. I said, man, how could I not believe in a guy like this who was innocent and died, and we believe he resurrected, but he spoke to my experience. And the main part of it is that he forgave even as he was being killed. That's what touched me, and that's when it began to change. I said, man, if this guy can forgive going through that, I'm in the land of the living. What's my problem? Yeah. So that's when things begin to change for me.
Darryl, I'm so glad you're here. What a great story. Let's give Darryl a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And let other people know he'll be speaking again at 7 o'clock this evening. So, and both of these are going to be available online and can be viewed later. They'll be recorded and can be viewed later. So, thanks again, Darryl.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.